Dear students, in our principles of management, now today we will discuss about the management process, skills and roles. So this is your next chapter of your syllabus, which is very much lengthy. We will start with the process of management first of all. Before understanding the process of management, we will understand the meaning of process. Process is a systematic way of doing things or systematic method of handling things. So it other words we can say process is just a systematic and organized method of doing all the things which you are supposed to do. So process is a beginning and termination point. It consists with the sequential steps. It is carried out through the application of skills, principles, technologies, and methods. It is meant to transform and coordinate certain efforts and resources into the desired results. What can be the desired results? Products or services. If we talk about the management process is a systematic way of getting things done through and with others for accomplishing organization objectives. This process consists of the certain steps. These and all the managers perform all those functions in order to getting the things done for accomplishing the organization objectives. If we talk about the characteristics of management process, and if we don't understand the characteristics of the management process, they will be able to understand the management process in detail effectively. Process of functions is a management process which is certain process management process of certain basic functions. These functions can be planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. Every manager has to perform these functions in order to get the things done to others. It is a second characteristics we talk about is continuous process. The process of management is a continuous and ongoing. All functions these are performed. It is performed continuity. So one function does not get finished before the next function is initiated. All the functions are interrelated to each other. There is no sequential performance. Though the management process consists of the various functions, but all function need not performed in a particular sequence. Every function can be performed in order to sequence, and there can be back and forth movement among the functions of management. Management function is an integrated process also, means management process cannot be performed independently. Theoretically, all the functions of management can be classified and studied independently, but practically they are highly inseparable from each other. So no single function can be performed without involving the others. Performance of each function mutually affects the performance of all the other functions. This management functions is a iterative process. The process of management is iterative in nature. It means all the function of process are contained within each other. Planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. These functions are performed in every function of process. So, for example, while performing to a new plant, a manager will have to plan the plant plan, organize the human resource in the planning process, direct them, and finally control the planning process. Similarly, in performing any other function, manager is required to perform all the other functions in one function. So all four functions are sub functions of each others in the process of management. That is why it is called iterative in nature. Management process is a social process also. This process of management is largely a social one. It is because the art of management is exercised through and with the people and by for the people of society. In this process, every manager has to establish interpersonal relationship with the people inside and outside of the organization. He has to understand their behavior and manage the things accordingly. Management function is a dynamic process also. It is a dynamic means uh, it is always a changing process. Management is over changing process, particularly in the context of today's environment. To ensure survival and success of organization, manager has to use new approaches and ideas. A manager have to be more innovative and creative enough so as to cope with the ever changing environment. The management process therefore cannot remain static but will remain dynamic also. Influencing processes, management process is also considered to be the influencing process. Every manager make effort for influencing the behavior of people working with him. For this purpose, manager uses their position, authority, competence and resources. So all he also uses financial and non-financial positive as well as negative incentive and methods in shaping and molding the behavior of subordinates. Result oriented process, management process is a result oriented process because it consists of determination of objectives, developing ways and means for achieving the desired result. Management process is the universal process also. It is widely accepted that the process of management function is universally ir- irrespective of the nature, type, and level of organization. It it is a universal process, and it we can discuss separately in detail in my next upcoming sessions. Rational process, management process is largely rational and intellectual process because manager uses perform this process by taking rational decisions. Management is the Now we'll talk about the functions of management. There are basically four types of the main functions which we have discussed many times in our lectures. These functions are planning, organizing, directing and controlling. Let us discuss separately all the four functions, but we will discuss more elaborated way as a in our next few chapters that we will discuss separately. First function which is coming up is planning function. It is the first function of management and it is referred as a primary function also. Planning is deciding in advance what is to be done in future. So it involves the selection of objective, policies, procedures, programs for attaining enterprise goals. In other words, simple way we can say planning is concerned with the with determination of objectives and ways of and means for achieving them. So planning is particularly what is to be done, what it is to be done, how the work will be done, who will do the work, when the work will be done, where the work will be done. So every question, answering of every question is the part of planning. So planning is intellectual process. It consists with the various steps. These steps can be evaluating environmental force and organizational resources, establishing objectives of the organization, establishing planning premises, developing alternative strategies and alternative course of action, evaluating alternatives, selection of course of action, formulating policies, program, procedures, methods, rules and etc. These for implementing their plan. So planning prevails at all the levels of organization and it is done by all managers and every level of organization. but scope of planning is not the same at each level of organization, because higher the level of organization, the broader the scope of planning. So planning can be long term also, it can be short term also, but the time span of plan is usually shorter at the supervisory level and it is longer at the top level of organization. So usually top manager plan for longer period of time and for the whole organization, whereas supervisory manager plan for much shorter time for their respective departments only. So planning, and it is also very important to discuss here that planning, that forecasting and decision making, these are the two important sub function of planning. Forecasting is needed because it, in this we will anticipate about the future, and decision making is essential because deciding every activity in the organization is also essential. So these two terms are also the part of the planning process. So this is what the planning, but we'll discuss as a separate chapter of all the four functions in our next sessions. Thank you for today. Now the rest of the part of function planning function, sorry, the function of management, we will discuss in my next session. Thank you.